Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Sue Tait, librarian in the Resource Center here in the Diocese of Olympia, where I've been for about 12 years. But one way or another, I've been involved with libraries for my whole life. When I first started working here, someone commented that the Resource Center was the best kept secret in the diocese. I thought that was maybe true, but it certainly should not be. So I'm particularly glad to have a chance to talk with you today. This webinar is being recorded and it will be on the diocesan website. If you want to ask questions, please ask them in the Q&A, and they can be answered at any time in the presentation. You don't have to wait until the end. Even if you have not visited our library here on the lower level in Diocesan House, you have no doubt seen us, the Resource Center display tables at Diocesan Convention and other events. Just before you joined, Matt and I were talking about how convention might work in a virtual world, still to be discovered. Of course, back to the traveling displays, the traveling displays feature materials that are selected for specific events, and they are only a small part of what's available in the library itself. The Resource Center is a lending library, of course, providing resources to support congregations, diocesan programs, and the individuals working on and with them. As religious libraries go, we're medium-sized. We have about 9,000 books. Some journals, especially theological journals, such as Anglican Theological Review, some DVDs, and a lot of videos, unfortunately, because hardly anyone still has the equipment to use them. So, to book sleuthing. I am assuming that you are somewhat familiar with the online catalogs. They all pretty much work the same way, but some are more sophisticated than others. Anyone can search in the catalog without a library account or even without being part of this diocese. In the same way, we can search in public libraries and many university libraries without being in their specific areas. University libraries, though, often use Library of Congress classification rather than the Dewey Decimal we use. You do not have to be logged in to search. But if you are logged in, there are some things you can do, such as check your account, renew books, reserve books, and even create a book list for yourself. Books cannot be checked out by self-service, though, so you can't check out a book in the morning and pick it up in the afternoon like you would at the grocery store. Call, and we can hold it for you, though, so the plan would work, just not online. A lot of our circulation is by mail, so you can pick your book up, of course, but more frequently, we would mail it to you either to your home address or church address, whichever is more convenient. I stand on the shoulders of talented women who built and refined this collection, who wrote our first database for books, who invited Earth Ministry to partner with us in providing material to people all over the country who are passionate about stewardship of the earth, and who shaped the collection to address the times in which they lived and the needs of the diocese then. We've had our online catalog available for about 10 years, maybe a little bit more. Let's take a look. Our guiding principles are found in the diocesan mission statement. We are locally centered. This means that we exist to respond to your needs as much as possible, not to tell you what you need. It means that I am open to suggestions to strengthen our collection in areas of interest. We might not purchase all recommendations, but I'm grateful for them. If you are not finding what you need, please call or send email and let's talk. I should tell you that we don't purchase fiction, though. There's just so much of it, and we don't have the space to put it on our shelves. We also don't purchase multiple volumes for book groups and such. Maybe the most important thing I can say, and I'll say it several times, I'm sure, is that I'm always available to assist you. And perhaps in conversation, I can suggest some ways of approaching a topic from a slightly different direction. Or maybe you can suggest the same materials and approaches to me. But as you think about future programs and needs, you might just want to explore on your own. And that's one of the joys of seeing a library, to see what is available on a topic. It's sort of virtually wandering through the book stacks. Back to the vision statement. Our next value is networked communities. We can act together best when we know about each other. For instance, Faith Formation, which is the group I'm a part of, puts out a mostly monthly newsletter in which we list events that are coming, and we have a yearly workshop called Better Together. That title, Better Together, says it all. You can sign up for the various newsletters directly from the web page. Click on the pull-down menu, actually almost any of them, and you get to the next page, which prominently allows you to sign up for the newsletter. Another diocesan value is forming leaders. This is a major emphasis of our collection, and it has to do with leadership of all kinds. We intentionally purchase and circulate the required texts for College for Congregational Development. For Iona School, we also have the texts in the Education for Ministry curriculum. And we have many ways of growing our leadership skills in areas such as tough conversations, stewardship, working with vestries, and so on, as well as church size and related topics. Mostly, this link takes place within the church. The final value listed here is Sacraments and Service. It's also a sizable part of our collection and has to do with prayer, liturgy, and music for a variety of ages. We also have a lot of material that looks at the connections between what we believe and the way that belief is embodied in the world. So, because you're here, I am assuming that you are interested in finding the online catalog, and there are at least 4 ways to do that. This quickest way is to retype the address into the taskbar, into the address bar. If you said books and then ecww.org, you would get immediately to the Resource Center homepage. Another way of getting to that same page is to type resources. Notice that in this case, resources is plural, and being able to type well counts. When you get to this most useful portal, which is where the documents that are particularly helpful to congregations are, you will find on the left also a link to Diocesan Resource Center. We'll get you right back to that page. If you are on the home page and you want to find and you want to get there from here, there are several ways to do that too. If we go to the very first tab, Who We Are, and look down at the list, there's the Diocesan Resource Center. The slowest way, but a way that certainly works, is to go to the search box. The spyglass in the black square will get you to a box where you can type in online catalog, and that will get you to all of the entries in this search engine that has to do with the online catalog, including, of course, the online catalog itself. So let's go immediately to the Resource Center homepage. This page welcomes you, gives you a few search tips, and talks a little bit about what's included in our collection. It also gives you 3 ways to move on beyond it. The first is the online catalog, and that's where we'll be spending most of the time, so we'll come back to that. New library books are also listed in the main catalog, of course, but when you go to a library, sometimes you can find a new bookshelf. This is the virtual version of that. Books in this add-on collection are here for about 3 months. I write annotations that I hope will include words that narrow down what the books are about, since the annotations are searchable. And there is a search bar. For instance, if you put down theology as something you would like, it will search through annotations that talk about theology and produce from the entire list those books that might meet that criteria. The last of the buttons is Sharing the Abundance. Sharing the Abundance is another add-on program arranged exactly the same way with annotations. Again, the annotations are searchable, but these books are not in our collection. These specific books are not in our collection. They are books that people have given us. People give us stuff actually all the time, and we can't use a lot of it because it's already in our collection. And if you've been downstairs, you've noticed that we just don't have enough room for multiple copies of things. This is a way to make them available to you, though, if you can use them. So again, in the search box, you could type in specific information, or you could just scroll through. There's never that many books that scrolling would be an onerous task. Let's go back to the online catalog, since that's really what we're here for. Take a look at this address. As a searcher, this is an address that you will never need to know, but it might be useful to add to your website. Some of the congregations in this diocese, I've noticed, have a link for useful websites around the Episcopal Church. And it would be great to add our online catalog as one of them, so that members of your congregation could just go there and get a direct link to the catalog. This is the address that you'd use. We also have a bit.ly address, though. It's a bit shorter, and if you'd like, I can certainly send that to you, so let me know. Do you know a specific title or part of a title? When I started in the library, you really had to know the exact wording of a title, or at least the beginning, or you'd never find your book. This is a wonderful improvement. If you do know the title, of course, you can type it in, and there you are. If you don't know it, or don't know all of it, you can type in what you do know. However, leave out the really common words, a, an, and the, you, about. So if you typed in want and race, you would get the same book. You also would get other books that have those words in the title. Play around a little bit and see what you can find. If you typed in talk race, you would get yet another list. The reason I did that is so that I can point out that this particular book, written by Julius Lester, is for kids. And you can tell that by the J that's in front of the call number. A couple of weeks ago, someone contacted me and said, do you have a book called Good News in a New Way? It didn't sound familiar, but I can't remember every book that's in our collection, so I typed it in, leaving out the in, and discovered that, in fact, it's a subtitle of a book by Meredith Gould called The Social Media Gospel. There are a couple of assumptions from this program. Did I tell you this program is written for school libraries, not church libraries, and it's not as sophisticated as public libraries or university libraries, but it does make some assumptions. One of them is that good news is a common phrase. And so most of the ones, the first books that are listed are good news together. It also lists things first by relevance. You could ask it to sort in other ways, and we'll get to that for just a minute. Over the years, there have been different conventions in titling books. A couple of years ago, it was all about being clever. And now it's pretty descriptive of what you can actually find within the book. For instance, Unabashedly Episcopalian, proclaiming the good news of the Episcopal Church. Well, it's the subtitle that tells you a little bit more about what it is. You can tell when the book was published. You can tell what the call number is in our collection, and you can tell if the book is in just by looking at that first screen. If you click on the title, maybe this is a good place to tell you that all of the print in red is a link. If you click on the title, you get a link, and it will take you immediately to the first page of the expanded information. We use Library of Congress subject headings, and so do most public libraries. Probably so do most university libraries. So it's a good way to find out the subject heading that you can search in other resources. The Library of Congress also has a classification scheme, and that's what is used in universities, but it's much more specific. And so for our little collection, it's kind of too much information. The subject headings are arranged by descending specificity. For instance, if you just looked under communication, in our collection it would be fine because we're not that big. But in a larger collection, you'd want to limit it to religious aspects of communication, and then maybe limit it even more to Christianity. If when you clicked on the subject headings or looked at the subject headings, you found one that was pretty much exactly what you wanted, click on it. And you would get another list of books that have social media or have that same subject heading as part of their description. The cataloger always assigns as many subject headings as possible to improve the chances that people get what they want. Subject headings are assigned from an approved list for consistency. And we can add subject headings, but we can't just make them up. We have to look on the approved list and find ones that would describe them for our users. We also could, if we wanted, recatalog the books so that all of the books on a topic are together. That certainly isn't true now, since catalogers highlight what they think is the most important aspect of a book. If you don't know the title of a book, make one up using the words that you would like to find. For instance, if you were interested in the spiritual aspects of ecology, you could type in the word spiritual and ecology, and you would get an interesting list. If you click on any one of the titles, you'll get to the subject headings. You notice some of them are huge. Prayer, well, you'd get a lot. If you looked up gardens, religious aspects, or human ecology, religious aspects, you would get a considerably reduced list. Our catalog gives quite a lot of information about a specific book. The summary page is this page, and that's pretty obvious. The snapshot page is particularly useful. If you scroll down a little, you get a description. Let's go back and find one that maybe has a little more. I don't know that this is a good example, but maybe it is. If you scroll down, you find a description. You could find excerpts from the first chapter or from an excerpt from other parts of the book so that you could read a little and get a sense of what it is that they actually cover. If you wondered what the table of contents might look like, you could click on that and see what topics are covered. And if you want to know something about the author, you could click on that. And you'd get to know a little bit about the person who wrote the book. Sometimes you get a picture, which is always handy. And if there were reviews in major review journals, such as Library Journal or Book List, they would also be listed here and printed here, and so you could check on them. If you look in the Details tab, this is what used to appear on catalog cards in the days when we actually used catalog cards. In library speak, this is the MARC record, machine accessible record, and it gives lots of information about the author, the date of publication, the ISBN number, which is unique to that specific book. A note about the date of publication. Some books have been reprinted, and so the date of publication listed is the date of the reprinting, not the copyright date. You might want, if it's in question and if it's important, you might want to track that down just to be sure. And that information is often on the back of the title page in a book. Sometimes it's on this page. If you look at the holdings list, you just find out what we have and whether or not it's in. But the proof of the pudding, actually, is whether the book's on the shelf. So just because it's in doesn't really mean that it's there. It usually means that it's there. Now, there are lots of ways that the catalog has made life easier for us. If you knew that you wanted an author named Walter Brueggemann, and you knew that he had written a ton of books, but you didn't know how to spell his name, you could put in what you did know. And this program would give you some suggestions of what you might actually be looking for. So you could click on the correct spelling and you would find a whole list of his books. Now you could just look through them, for instance, if you wanted something on ecology, but you also could say his name and ecology. And that would show you what we have that's written by him on that topic. The Home tab is what we're looking at now. The Search tab shows you the kinds of searches that are available. Combo is the most common one and is where the keyword searching is. Advanced allows you to look in more detailed ways. For instance, you could look under series title, and it would give you as a filter contains, and then you could say, do you know this series? Embracing is a big series of DVDs and leaders' guides, all beginning with the word embracing. This is not the entire series, and if you're familiar with the series at all, you know it isn't, so try searching in a different way. Another very interesting thing you can do in the search type is to check by Dewey Decimal Number, but keep in mind that books on the topics that we might consider the same topics are scattered all over the collection, depending on what the cataloger thought was the main point. Cataloging is only as good as the information typed in. So when we were looking at the series titles, if the person doing the cataloging had not included the series title, it wouldn't show up on that page. So be suspicious if you don't think you're finding enough. Another possibility that you can find is media type. This is particularly useful. We don't have CDs in our collection. We don't at the moment have ebooks, but that is an ongoing source of investigation. So click on DVD and then say, I wonder if we have any DVDs on race relations. Sure enough, we do, and it gives you the standard information. DVD is the first word, not the Dewey Decimal number, and then the numbers are assigned in the order the DVD gets. So the larger numbers are the most recent. And they're marked with this picture. So when you look at the catalog, you can tell at a glance which books are DVDs and which books are not. The next category are lists. And these are lists that I have created over the years to make life easier for people. We, in fact, have all the books in the assigned list for the College for Congregational Development, and you could find them here, see if they're in, see what the call number is, how many copies we have. You could even tell from that screen. Same thing for confirmation resources. This is asked for a lot, and if you start by looking at the list, you can find out briefly what we have and then go from there. It's quite likely in confirmation resources that you would be interested in the copyright date. So click on it, and the program will sort by copyright date. And annoying to me, oddity, is that it gives you the oldest book first. So click on it again, and you get the newest books on confirmation, and which will allow you to take a look. These are all popular ones in our collection currently. And finally, you could click on the links category. This will take you to other places in the internet world that might be useful to you. For instance, if you click on Building Faith, do you know Building Faith? It's a lovely journal put out by the Virginia Theological Seminary that is articles on a variety of faith formation topics. For instance, choosing curriculum, and this curriculum chart is revised every year and is particularly helpful. They just now have an article on finding books for small book groups on the topic of race. So if you were interested in that, you could look there. There are many possibilities of ways to find your way around the catalog. So the key to all of that is to get an account. The account information is not online at the moment. I think maybe it will be in the future, but when I set this up, I thought we didn't want people from outside of the diocese signing up. It has, of course, now occurred to me that I would just need to send them a note and say that it's only for the diocese. But it does ask just for your name, your first name, last nickname, and then you would be assigned a username that is your actual name. So my username is Sue-Tait, just the way I would put it down. My PIN number, personal identification number, happens to be the last 4 digits of my home phone number. And that is a default for a whole lot of public libraries. But you could also give me any other 4 to 8 digits that you prefer. Some people would rather use their cell phone numbers. Some people, entirely select something else. Once I have entered your PIN number into our system, I don't have any access to it anymore. And it's not on this application form. So if you did pick a number different from your home phone number default, just put a Post-it on it and tell me what it is, and then you'll be the only one who knows that. Once you have filled it out, every time you have checked it in, checked a book out, sorry, let me start entirely over again. If you have filled that out, you only have to do that once. Then when you check a book out, in each book, there's a pocket and card, just like when you were in grade school. Put your name on the card legibly, please, and assign a due date, which we say is a month, but actually we're more generous than that. It's just a starting point. So then leave the card with us. Sometimes people forget and take the card away with them, which kind of defeats the point. The double system is a little redundant, but it allows for lots of flexibility. It allows us to check books out any place in the diocese, and it allows you to check books out if you come down into our resource center and I'm not there because I'm part-time. With an account, you can check out you can create your own book list. That's not a complicated process, but it's a lot of details. So if you would find that interesting to you, give me a email or a call, and I'll be glad to walk you through it. Another way you can find out about books is by using online booksellers like Barnes & Noble or Amazon. And I'm going to use Amazon as an example just because I'm pretty familiar with them. You could find out a whole lot of information without spending a cent on their books. So for instance, if you were thinking about using this for a book group, you'd find it, click on the title, and it would show you first all of the formats that book is available in. So if you were saying to your book group, let's use this, and you can either get it on Kindle as an audiobook or as a hardcover paperback, or you could get it as a CD rather than having an audiobook connection. It gives you an annotation of the book so that you can find out a bit about it. If you scroll down to frequently bought together, it will suggest other things that you might like to buy at the same time. Each one of these other things are a link as well. And it's interesting to me that sometimes these happen to all be pretty recent books, but sometimes the books are not recent at all. Whatever algorithms they use to come up with this list, they're good ones for the most part. Keep scrolling down and you will get to editorial reviews. This read more is usually very handy, and in this case, you'll find that there are quite a few reviews. Many of them are the kind of statements that appear on the back of book jackets that just tell you who liked the book, but that's pretty instructive. If you recognize the names of the people who are making those testimonials, that says something. If you don't, that says something too. Keep scrolling down and you find product details. This is what will tell you that it's a reprint edition rather than a first edition. It will give you the ISBN number, and it will tell you if there are videos about it, but there's another probably better way to find the videos. Back up here, a thing to mention if you were actually going to buy this book from a third-party seller, they're often cheaper. Sometimes, not all, but sometimes. For instance, look at this. The paperback price is cheaper if you buy it from Prime than if you buy it used from a third-party seller. That's unusual and quite odd. Here's an example, though, that will allow me to say what I want to. If you were getting the hardcover, it looks like it's cheaper to buy it used. Click on that, and you'll get a list that tells you the condition of the book, whether or not Prime is the one that fulfills the order, which means you get free shipping if you're a Prime member. It tells you about delivery, and it tells you the reputation of the person whose store it's coming from. A thing to notice, though, is that for many of the books, there is a shipping charge. So here's a book that might, on the look of it, be a price savings, but by the time you add in $4 shipping charge, it might not be a savings at all. So be sure to look that over. Another wonderful possibility in your book snooping is if it says look inside. This will give you a lot of information. In this case, more testimonials. It will tell you some information like what the Dewey Decimal Number is and what the catalog subject numbers are. So you could look those up in other places. It will give you the table of contents and an excerpt from the book itself. Another possibility for finding out material is to look at YouTube. Everything's on YouTube, right? For instance, go to the search box and type in the author's name, and you will find that she has many videos that allow you to hear her talk and hear what she has to say, as well as looking for printed matter. Book sleuthing is a fine thing to do. You can find out a great deal of information, and you can find books that lead more or less seamlessly to other books, so you can deepen your knowledge of a field. Finding what you need and want in an information age like ours is a matter of sifting down and being imaginative, trying one approach if another one doesn't seem to get you what you want. It's a great search. There's a lot of information available, and I wish you happy hunting. I'm always available as a resource for you as well, so contact me. My email is resource@ecww.org. Please notice that in my case, resource is singular. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to take them now. If not, thank you so much for coming. Any questions?
Looks like there's a couple in the Q&A section. Carrie wants to know, do you have to hand enter all this information, or is it embedded within the barcode on the book in the search section?
Oh, Carrie, that's a great question. It's embedded in the ISBN number, which is on the back of the book. Let's see if I can find a recent enough book that has one. Well, of course I can't, but on the back of most books, there is an ISBN number, or inside there is listed the ISBN number. And if you type that number in, it's embedded in there, and you will get immediately to what you want. That works in our collection, and it also works just fine in Amazon or other online booksellers.
And one more question from Carrie. Has there been any work or thought about converting the videos to DVDs?
Another great question. There has been thought. The as much as I can, I have tried to purchase the ones commercially available as DVD. It starts getting into a copyright thing. We can't just copy them. If they're commercial, if they were initially commercially available, they're still under copyright and we can't just change the format. At least that's my understanding. If we are the holders of the original, so if the Diocese of Olympia produced it, we certainly could change it. But there hasn't been that much interest in what we have, and people nowadays actually are not even as interested in DVDs as they used to, because streaming is becoming more and more popular. But it certainly is something to think about, because we have this huge and carefully curated collection, and it's a shame to just let it sit and die off. Thank you for asking. Thank you for coming, everyone. I will be happy to answer any further questions or help you find what you need if you want to contact me. And while I'm virtually not at my desk, I can't, and we are not sending books out either. I can't offer to send you things, but I do have access to my email. And of course, I do have access to the catalog, as you do too. And we can identify some possibilities for whatever day is in the future when we'll be opened up again. Thank you very much.